Welcome to the video. Today I want to talk about reinvigorating the NBM draw strategy, which if any of you have followed the channel for a number of years, you'll know that I started off doing a lot of draw betting. It's always been one of my favourite markets, and I used to have a subscription service. We used to do like great things. We had a little community going, and the selections were great. They used to be profitable, but then so the strategy didn't break, but I broke a little bit and stopped betting and stopped engaging. So anyway, I'm really excited. I'm going to start doing my draw selections again, but we're not going to do a tipping service because it's just got too much baggage and I'm just not ready for that. But I'm going to do a live sort of strategy builder, test some filters along with you, and show you the results as we go, tweak any filters that we might need to tweak. We're going to have two different hypotheses to start off with, looking at whether we want draws that are like ball draws that have got sort of low scoring, low shots, low XG, or do we think high scoring, fluid matches will be better? And we're going to look at the two. We're going to build filters relating to both of them, track the results and see how we get on. And I'm going to update you every day. There won't be a long video like this every day. It'll be literally a short each day, just showing you the results from yesterday's filters. I'll show you the games, I'll show you the scores, we'll track the profit and loss. We'll also throw some over and unders in there as well to see if we can build a strategy alongside the one that we're building. And it's going to be fun, and hopefully we'll give it a bit of time testing it. Hopefully it will turn into a bona fide sort of draw strategy again, and it might be useful, and we might start expanding and sort of sharing some of the selections in some way with you guys. But I'm not going to do that in the first instance because I don't want you putting money on things that we're still testing. You should never do that. I'm going to do flat stakes. I'm going to call it £10 a bet, just because it's easy for everybody to work out on the spreadsheet. I could say £1, I don't know, whatever. Basically, you would never bet £10 per bet unless you had a really, really thousands of pound bankroll. But just for illustrative purposes, just to say that up front, I'm not claiming that I'm not putting bets on these. I haven't got any money at the moment to be betting. So I'm not claiming, look at me, we've won hundreds of pounds. I'm not putting anything on it, so I'm not telling you to either. It's illustrative, it's just a little journey that we can go on, a little series that we can make. So yeah, let me show you a bit more about it.
Firstly, goals scored. Now put home and away, this is pretty obvious. Not necessarily the home and away aspect, but goals scored. We want to look at if teams are scoring a similar amount of goals, they're likely to draw games. But when I put home and away, what I mean by that is I want to look at goals scored at home by the home team and goals scored away by the away team. I don't want to just look at overall goals, because you could have a team that scores hundreds at home and never scores away, vice versa. So we just want to look that little bit extra detail and take that little bit more effort at looking at the home stats and the away stats respectively. Attempts on goal and also shots on target. Easy things to sort of overlook if you're just looking at goals, but it doesn't tell the full picture. As we all know, we'll have seen hundreds of games where a team has peppered the goal with 15 shots, 8 on target, and not come away with anything because a team scores with their only shot on target at the end of the game in the 90th minute. Now, you're not going to get your draw when that happens, but what we want to be doing is looking at patterns and looking at sort of behaviours of teams to see whether they are likely to score or likely to have a lot of shots on target. So we want to know if the results are just almost, so if the goals scored actually sort of reflects the attempts on goal and the attempts on target. And these are all things that I like to build a picture with. XG, I'll be using this to a certain extent in my filter. I use it more as an indicator rather than in my filters. I don't use this to sort of build the filter, but I have it as an added stat at the end so that I can just have a look at it when I make my decision after looking at all the softer stuff like team news and sort of motivation, as we'll come to. I'll use XG as well to just have a little look at it, just to get a bigger picture. Possession splits is something that I've always been keen on when looking at draws, and I don't like games where there's clearly a team that favours having loads more possession than the other team and it's just grinding them down. I like to have teams that have got a similar sort of playing style and sort of similar levels of possession. So, it might be that one team averages 48% possession, the other averages 52, whatever, that's fine. But I don't want games where there's a team that averages 60% possession and another one that averages like 38% possession, because that's not going to give me the sort of game that I'm looking for. When I'm looking for a draw, I want both teams to be able to take part in the game, basically, to be able to hold their own. I don't want gulfs in class, because once that first goal goes in to the favourite in those instances, it's very hard for the underdog to get back on terms. I want teams to be able to attack and to defend. So I don't want that gulf in classes, and that's sort of a metric that I use. Again, it's not one that I build the filter with, but it's one that I have at the end to just sort of get a bigger picture. Motivation is something that is I think for absolutely every trade or bet that you have when you're working with football, is something you've got to consider. So it's not unique to this strategy, but whether a team is reliant on needing a draw to sort of get into the promotion places at the end of the season, or to stave off relegation, or whether just simply a draw would be a good result for this team in the current run of form that they're in against a stronger team who've just signed loads of players and on a bit of a bounce. Whatever it is, you just got to take that into consideration when making those final selections. So that's not something you can put in a filter. So my filters haven't got that in it, but again, it's something that I like to look at. Team news and transfers is a similar thing. All of your data could indicate that this looks great for a draw because both teams have a similar standard and are sort of in similar form, but then you know that one of the teams has just signed 3 players for 100 million, and they likely to have a direct impact on the goal scoring abilities. You might have a manager that's just left and a new manager coming in who's going to park the bus, as opposed to one who used to play football. So look, there's loads of things that you've got to take into account. I wish it was as easy as just using data, and I've been guilty in the past of being too reliant on data and stats, because I enjoy that level of depth in and sort of detail, but you have got to put the softer stuff around it. So you look at team news, transfers, motivation, and sort of possession splits to a certain extent are the sort of the bits around the edge that I like to consider. The main things we're looking at are goal scoring ability, attacking intent, and defensive ability. So the top 3 bullet points there are mainly looking at that. And when I've got those bullet points, I'm not simply looking at how many attempts on goal, how many attempts on target, how many goals have scored, home and away. There's a lot more detail within that. We'll break it down and look at it by half, by minute in some instances, especially with the goals scored, and we'll compare the two, and we'll be looking at how teams perform against different teams of different abilities. So this team, it looks good for a draw, but we know that this particular team doesn't fare well against teams in the bottom half of the table, and generally doesn't have many draws against teams that are like 4 or 5 places above them, or you know what I mean, like things like that. So there's a lot going on. It's not as simple as just these bullet points, but this is a broad overview. So I mentioned at the start that I want to look at a couple of different things, and when you're doing any sort of research, you have a hypothesis. You start off with an idea and you sort of flesh it out with research and build on it and see if it makes sense and what happens. So hypothesis 1, so there are going to be 2 angles, 2 filters, and we're going to track them live, and I'm going to build them with you and tweak them if necessary and track the results. Hypothesis 1, draws are more likely to occur when both teams struggle to score goals and also don't concede many goals. Possession stats should be roughly equal, suggesting the 2 teams may cancel each other out. Now, as you can tell from what I said previously, this is the sort of hypothesis that I have always sort of leaned towards a little bit. With my previous draw strategies, if any of you were with the channel a good few years ago, really profitable, really good. It never broke. I broke, so I stopped. I stopped recording and betting, but the strategy still holds weight. I've tweaked it a bit, and I'm still recording the results. But this is hypothesis 1. So we're looking at the sort of board draw angle here, where teams are going to cancel each other out. It's key that you've got the team struggle to score goals, but they also don't concede many goals. So you don't just want teams that can't hit a barn door, but also concede freely. You want that mix of sort of being very tight. Well, that's what we want for this hypothesis. I'm not saying that's the right angle, but this is what we're looking at for this hypothesis. So this is the sort of board draw angle. Hypothesis 2, you could say draws are more likely to occur when both teams play open attacking football, leading to the potential for goals at each end, with equalisers likely when a team falls behind. So this is sort of flipping it on its head and saying you're more likely to get draws when it's an evenly contested match of attacking football, because a team can score a goal, concede a goal, score a goal, concede a goal. Once that first goal goes in, because with the ball draw option, you could argue that once that first goal goes in, a team will shut up shop completely. They're not known for conceding goals. The other team isn't known for scoring many goals, but they've got one. They're not going to get another. And the other team isn't capable of breaking them down to equalise, so it's going to end 1-0. For example, again, these are hypotheses. So with this angle, you're saying, well, even though that team has scored, they might go and score 1-2, but the other team will probably come back and score a couple because both score a lot and both have got leaky defences. So is that the angle to go for with draws? Well, that's something that we're gonna investigate. So, as you can see, that's basically an illustration of what I've been talking about. Just goals scored. On the left, the score draw, we've got positive sort of figures for goals scored, shots on goal, shots on target, predicted XG, and with the ball draw option, we're looking for games that haven't got a lot of goals, shots on target, XG. Possession splits, I want pretty much equal for both. I still want it to be a competitive game. I don't want golfs in class for either filter. So that's what we're going to be looking at, and this is how we're going to record them. And you can see that these are the selections for today, which is the 19th of August. I'm not going to be showing these ahead of time, so you can see this game. Okay, these games kick off at 7:45. I'm recording this at like 7 o'clock, so I'm going to wait to upload this until these games have kicked off, because I don't want this to be a tipping service. I don't want people to follow these. I want you to follow along live with me with a day's delay, and we can see how we're getting on. But I don't want you copying these and putting money on them, because that's not what this is. So we can see today we've got the filter for the low scoring goals. We've got one in Denmark at odds of 4, and then we've got 3 in England League 1 and 2 that are sort of mid 3s, so 3.5, 3.45, 3.15. Obviously these will fluctuate depending on when you put your bet on. These are Betfair odds. So then we're going to record the result, the profit and loss, and the cumulative total. I'm going to be doing level stakes, so it's just going to be one stake, 1 point. But I'm also going to actually, after this video, I'm going to add in for the high scoring games, I'm going to put in the over 2.5 goals odds, and for the low scoring, I'm going to put the under 2.5 goals odds, and see if we could also look at staking there. Because what you will find a lot when you're building strategies is that you'll build a strategy aiming at a certain market and realise after you've collected a lot of data that it actually suits a different market, and these are prime examples that could fall into that category, because you could very well say that the low scoring games, well, low scoring under 2.5 goals, high scoring flowing football over 2.5 goals, it just makes sense. So you could get to a position where you want to stake half a point on the higher odds of the draw and half a point on your unders and overs. So I'm going to record those as well, so this spreadsheet will look slightly different, and how we manage it. So yeah, we're gonna you know what, I've said I'm going to do one stake. I'm going to say £10 is a point, so we'll say each bet is going to be £10. Should we say that, because it's easy for people to visualise, rather than saying 1 point, because people are going to say what does a point mean? I don't understand what talking money. So we'll say £10. So we're going to bet £10 on each of these, and to be fair, it'd be nice if you see a profit, but it'll also show you how quickly things can get into negative figures if you get a few that don't go your way. So £10 is a lot of money. I wouldn't be staking £10 on each of these, no way, unless I had a very big bankroll. But this is all for illustrative purposes. I'm not giving you tips. So so follow along, and I will update you each day with the selections, just with a short video. I'm not going to do like a big video every day. It will be a short, and then maybe once a week we'll come back and sort of see if we need to tweak anything. All right then, keep tuned, stay tuned, whatever.